Good afternoon, I'm KHOU Meteorologist Chris Ramirez. We definitely had a treat last night, especially all across Texas, as we saw the northern lights, or the Aurora borealis is what they call it. But we are expecting to see that this was sent to me from my best friend Emily from college. This was out in Sanger, Texas, just north of Fort Worth. They were able to see it extremely bright up there, especially north of Houston. And then of course another picture, it wasn't that far away that we were able to still see it out in Magnolia, Texas. This is from my Aunt Irma Gonzalez, who lives out in Montgomery County, and you're able to see the further south you go, the less bright it was. And so as it was a very intense solar, definitely auroras, fairly intense period last night for the auroras. And so what usually happens is that when we have this energy emitted from the sun, you have charged protons and electrons that are emitted from the sun, and they come in contact with Earth's magnetic field. And usually when they move into the northern and southern poles, you're actually able to see them follow the Earth's magnetic field, and this collision with the magnetic field of the Earth causes that aurora to form in the form of those pink or green lights. And so you might be asking, once it enters the Earth atmosphere through the poles, why could it be green sometimes and why could it be pink? Of course, last night we saw pink aurora, but it very often sometimes could be green. It depends on how high in the atmosphere it is, and that definitely determines what color it is. So looking at the red auroras, that means that those particles that were emitted from the sun were above 200 kilometers in the Earth's atmosphere. I think we saw rather pink, so this was below 100 kilometers. This was more closer to the surface. But once you start seeing those auroras, or those particles that are in about 100 to 200 kilometers up, then they turn into a green color. This all has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum. And so sometimes they're often blue and red, and I believe we saw pink, and they're about 100 kilometers, and it was extremely intense. And so you might be asking yourself, are we going to see it again? There's been reports out there that we could still see it once again tonight. However, this is the forecast for tonight from NASA. They're showing where you're able to see the green and red colors. The northern states, as far south as Nebraska, even Oklahoma, could possibly see it once again, including the Dakotas. The thing to note here is that this is pretty difficult to predict. Last night, we weren't included in this forecast area, even though we were able to see it just north of Houston. So even though it might be intense, extreme intensity could be visible outside that forecast area like we saw last night, and that's what we're expecting once again tonight, especially for today. We're going to see a little bit more cloud cover here across Houston. I think might not be able to see it if you are in the city of Houston. The city lights, it does not take much light or much city light or light pollution to really just block it all from showing up. But if you're in the rural areas, just might as well take a look out across during the evening hours late tonight to see if you're able to see it, just in case you're able to get another glimpse at it, as it will be more intense in our northern states tonight. However, our weather story, going back to what's really the main idea for the next few days. Warming trend will be continuing. Above average temperatures are going to be in the forecast at least through the next few days. We're not expecting another cool down, at least anytime soon. It's just going to remain mostly warm and a little bit muggy, unfortunately. However, as we head into Thursday, Friday, we're going to have to start worrying about the foggy conditions. Patchy fog overnight and in the morning hours likely could be the case maybe starting on Thursday morning. So we are going to get in this time of period where once we start looking at this increasing humidity during the fall and winter months, this is usually fog season for us here across Houston. And so you're going to have to keep an eye on that fog for the next couple of mornings, especially as we are seeing increasing humidity. Live look right now, seeing a bit more cloud cover over downtown Houston, 77 degrees. Sun will be setting at 5:27 this evening. Sun is also setting a little bit earlier as we head closer towards the winter season. As far as your hourly planner through the rest of the day, we're going to see those temps top out in the lower 80s, eventually dropping down into the upper 70s. I think we're going to have to lose those jackets if you are heading out in the next few days. We're being influenced by building high pressure. This high pressure that's situated off towards the east of us over the northern Gulf, that's going to start moving a bit closer to us, and that's just really going to keep things mostly quiet, at least for the next few days. And you're able to actually see those clouds sort of swirling around the center of that high pressure system, and that's going to be building back over towards us in the coming days, and it's just going to really keep things quiet and you're going to see these weather systems off towards the west. It's just going to really block any of those weather systems from moving this far south. And so we might be able to see a few showers in the forecast, at least the next couple of afternoons. But as long as that high is there, we're not really going to see any frontal boundary making their way closer to us here anytime soon, at least for the rest of the work week. So what that means is that we're also going to be dealing with increasing humidity throughout the rest of the week. So we're dealing with the dry conditions for the past few days. Now we're seeing those southerly winds bring in that Gulf moisture. And once again, it's going to be a bit muggy. Not too bad, not summer-like conditions, but we could see that increasing humidity just keep things a little bit too warm and not fall-like, at least for the next couple of afternoons. So for today's forecast, highs in the low 80s. Some areas likely to remain in the 70s, especially in Conroe, Huntsville, Sugarland 80 degrees, Ocampo at 80, Columbus 80 degrees, 75 in Galveston. So we are going to be a bit cooler along the coastal area. So as we look at the temperatures for the next couple of days, we're just going to see those highs in the 80s, lows in the 60s and 70s. So if you do have those outdoor plans, the good news, no rain in the forecast. However, it is going to be a little bit warm out there if you are out and about across the area. And the Climate Prediction Center is also calling for above average temperatures as well. We haven't received any rain for the past couple of months, and we're able to see that with our increasing drought conditions, especially off towards the west and the east, especially with severe drought in place over Liberty, even extreme drought now creeping into closer towards Columbus, as well as moderate drought conditions now in place for Houston. So I think, it's really we're not getting to the point we're going to have to issue any type of restrictions. I think the fact that we are not as saturated is kind of good news for us here across Houston, because any day that it's not flooding in Houston, in my opinion, is a good day. But we are expecting those drought conditions to slowly start creeping off towards us. But we're not at that restriction stage yet. We just have some dry vegetation that once we get those fronts that usually bring in the dry air, that's where we have to worry about the fire weather issue. But temperature outlook, November 18th through November 22nd, we're going to be warmer than normal. So it's very well likely that we could see these high temps remain in the 80s at least for quite some time. And as we look at our 10-day high temperature trend, highs are going to be in the mid 80s, 85 for Sunday and Monday. There is a hint of another front moving through by the middle of next week. However, we're also in that time of year where the weather models are just not performing all that well. And that's what we saw the past few days. The weather models were calling for a frontal boundary to come through this weekend. They've backed off, and now nothing is coming through this weekend, especially with any rain chances, as well as because that high pressure system is just remaining over us and keeping things more so north of us. So even though you see a little bit of a front coming through by middle of next week, I would take those temperatures as a grain of salt. And that's why we only issue forecasts 7 days out, because we start getting uncertain, or the models start performing poorly as we head towards Thursday and Friday. So for today, highs in the 80s, sunny and warmer. We're going to continue this warming trend at least through the next few days, but just expected to see mostly sunny skies with highs in the 80s and lows in the 60s through this weekend. And so something to really keep an eye on in terms of the let's say, mild heat. I don't think the heat's going to be feeling summer-like, but it's definitely going to bring back the muggy conditions as we head into the next few days, as we have high pressure building in across the northern Gulf, and that's just going to keep things mostly dry. And as you take a zoom out here, we're just looking at mostly these weather systems at this high. You see a large section of the country just rather quiet, but you have a little bit of a low pressure system now about to move into the west coast. And so as long as this high is right here, it's just going to keep everything to the north, and you're able to see them still dealing with some showers and some snow actually out in the northeast U.S. For portions of just outside of New York and D.C. I believe that's in Pennsylvania, and that's New York State. So high pressure system building in, keeping us a bit warm, as well as that's just going to keep things at bay and send all of those weather systems north of Texas as we head into the next few days. So this warming trend just not really expecting to be going away anytime soon. We're not expecting another significant cold front, at least for the next 7 days. And then you're going to also look at the increasing humidity through the week. Highs in the low 80s. In the 70s for this afternoon, with those future temps just continuing to warm up into the mid 80s as we head into this evening. and into the next couple of afternoons. So once again, for your 7-day forecast, we are looking at a rather dry forecast. We might see a little bit more cloud cover for this weekend and also for tonight as well. I think we're going to see a little bit cloud cover. I know I was talking about the Aurora Borealis earlier in this live stream. I think we're going to see a bit more cloud cover along our coastal areas, maybe from South Houston to Galveston. So I don't think it's going to be really possible to see it out there. But like I said, very well possible. Doesn't hurt to just take a look out, look to the north, take a picture with your phone to see if you see anything. Sometimes you may not be able to see it with the naked eye, but if you take a picture with your phone, it comes out drastically better on your phone camera than it does actually seeing it in person, from what I've been told and from what I've been told from the folks that have taken pictures, especially north of here. So mostly warm, highs in the 80s, lows in the 60s. We are expecting those conditions to remain a little bit humid from this point forward, at least through the next few days. Again, I'm meteorologist Chris Ramirez with your extended forecast. Thank you for watching KHOU 11 Plus. Make sure to tune in later on this afternoon at 4 p.m. for the KHOU 11 News at 4.